Hey guys, here's Mrs. Smith from Tuesday. It's comfy day today. So I have my comfy sweatshirt on, and it definitely had how Mrs. Smith felt about coming into work today, even though it's just coming out to my deck. Not today, says the cat. Not today, says Mrs. Smith, but she's here anyway, because that's important, and that's what we do. I also have my nice comfy headband, maybe so that I can go to sleep on it if I want to a little bit later. And of course, Angie's here and she's screaming because that's normal. Okay, so today's first assignment is discovering Jupiter and Neptune. Now, a lot of this you may remember from last week. So you can skip, you can pause, you can go far ahead, you can just check your answers at the end. It's very similar to our Earth and Mars assignment. Of course, different planets. So let's look. First part. This is the paper you should have in front of you. It's all about Jupiter. You could also start with Neptune if you wish, but it happens to be Jupiter on my screen. Look at each of the questions at the bottom of the reading and number the questions like I did here. Un, deux, trois. Read through the text about Neptune, and as you read, number one, find the answers to the questions and place the number of the question next to your answer. Number two, highlight any new words. Not just new words, although new words definitely work. Interesting facts is a wonderful thing to highlight. And number three, highlight in maroon each time you see the word Neptune. Neptune? Oh, gracious. Mrs. Smith. Jupiter. There we go. Oh, boy. I'll tell you, Mrs. Smith must have been confused. So we're going to fix this. You get to see me fix it. Wow. Okay, let's see. Let's hope it doesn't go like that further on. So every time you see the word Jupiter, please do maroon. And so you're going to take time to go through this assignment now. If you wish to go through it with me, then you can just keep watching and eventually I'll get there. Otherwise, you should start working on this, pause me, and then come back. All right, moving forward. Now we're at Neptune. Okay, so Neptune, of course, is blue because of the methane gases. So, first step, please look at each of the questions, and as you read, find those numbers inside the reading. Next, every time you see a new word or you see something that's interesting to you, highlight it in yellow. And lastly, highlight blue every time you see the word Neptune. Okay, very similar. And here is our final paper. You can see that Mrs. Smith had to get a little creative with this one. This is our compare and contrast. In this section, you write down information that is special to Jupiter only. And on this side, please write down the information that is special to Neptune only. And in the center, that's where we talk about what they share. All right, so from this point forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through how my thought processes are and the way that I did the work. So if you do not want to see how Mrs. Smith got to the answers yet, you should pause me and then come back. All right, don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so let's just make, oh, see, look at this, Neptune all over the place over here too. I think it's because Mrs. Smith tried to get tricky with Control Find. All right. There we go. All right. Okay. So the first thing I did was I went through and I actually choose kind of the easy parts first. And I found all the words Jupiter. Oh, the cats are playing. And I highlighted them in maroon. If you're using a crayon or a marker, make sure that you don't write too darkly or you won't be able to see it anymore. And then it becomes nothing. Okay. So then the next thing I did was I tried to find the answers to each of these questions. So the first one is, what do you think the author's purpose of this text was? And you probably remember how we started that sentence. It's a way, if you remember back, I think it was Asteroid Belt, when they talked about the race method, where you can reword the question, and that is a way to write down an answer. So let's do that. So the author's purpose was to teach about Jupiter. There we go. Okay. Now, the second question was something I was able to find. So it wanted us to talk about why it is called a gas giant. So the first thing I did was I circled when I saw the words gas giant. I was like, I should really find out what's going on over there. And it says here, it is made mostly of gases and is known as a gas giant. Well, then that's our answer. It is called a gas giant. Don't forget to do those quotation marks on either end because it's like a phrase, and we're saying that this phrase is what we're talking about. It is called a gas giant because it is made mostly of gases. Period. Done. Okay. So then the third question is what you learned about the size of Jupiter. So what I did there was I said, okay, well, they could use the word size as we're reading, but it is more likely that they're going to use words like smaller or bigger or give a number. And so as I was reading, look at that. One of the first words I see is the words bigger. And it says here that it is 2.5 times bigger than all of the other planets in the solar system combined. So let's write that down. Jupiter is 2.5. You can see how Mrs. Smith wrote 2.5. You can also just write the words like they did from the text, times bigger than all the other planets combined. There we go. Okay, now I got all of those. Now, if I was going to try to locate something that I was interested in, let me see what I can do here. Let me take a shape, and you know what? I am interested in this giant dust storm. So I'm gonna pretend like I'm highlighting this, but I can't actually highlight because then you'll be able to see it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make it yellow. Okay, and then you can see that I've kind of highlighted that. And then I'll do one more to finish it off because there's a tiny part that I didn't get inside. Okay, and we'll make that clear and yellow. Okay, so if I were really highlighting this, of course I'd highlight the words themselves. This spot is actually a giant dust storm that has been going for at least 350 years. The storm is so large that 3 Earths could fit inside it. I personally think that's super interesting and super scary. Mrs. Smith, not going to Jupiter anytime soon. Okay, so let's move on forward. If you'd like to pause me now or go back, make sure you take your time. I'm going to move on to Neptune. They only give me 15 minutes in these little videos, so I have to be very careful. All right, so I'm moving on to Neptune. So for Neptune, you'll also notice that Mrs. Smith had to kind of retype in order to fit more space. Yours is probably fine, but when I try to put it onto my computer, the sizing gets a little bit strange. So first up, I found all the words Neptune and I highlighted them in blue. Next step, I found where each of the questions were answered. So for instance, number 2 is look back at the text. What did you learn about the size? So again, I'm looking for size words, right? Here's the size word, bigger. It is the smallest, there's another size word, of the gas giants, but it is still 4 times bigger than Earth. So if we, that's the answer to that one. And then number 3, you guys probably noticed that I didn't place in number 3. We're going to place it together. It's right here. So number 3's question is, what is the great dark spot? And that's answered right here in the reading. You can see that I circled it and then underlined the answers. Okay, so if I was going to maybe do like a further highlight, maybe something that interested me, then I would probably choose the fact that it has large windstorms. I find that really interesting. And again, kind of scary. There we go. Okay, so there's my highlighted section. Okay, so now I need to answer the questions. Question 1, what do you think the author's purpose of this text is? The author wishes us to know about what? Neptune. Now there are definitely better ways of phrasing that sentence. So if you have a different sentence, that's okay. This is an okay way as well. Now, if we look back at the text, what did we learn about the size of Neptune? Now, luckily, when I was reading, I had already marked down where the answer is, so I don't have to reread. We know that it is still, Neptune is 4 times bigger than Earth. I could also mention that it's the smallest of the gas giants if I wanted to. That would be a fuller answer. And then lastly, what is the Great Dark Spot? The Great Dark Spot is the largest storm ever recorded. And it lasted 5 years. So it certainly isn't lasting as long as the Great Red Spot of Jupiter, but it definitely has a storm. It had a storm, and it lasted a long time, and it was a very scary storm, I would think. All right, so if you need more time on that, take your time, pause me, go back, whatever you need to do. Otherwise, I am going to move forward to compare and contrast. All right, let's review and talk about what is special to Jupiter only. One of the first things that I noticed that was special to Jupiter, of course, is its size. So, no, I don't want to write in blue. I'm not writing about Neptune. There we go. It is the biggest planet in our solar system. And here's something interesting that I read from, that I reread when I went back through the reading, was that it has the shortest day in the solar system, only 10 hours. For instance, our day is 24 hours, so quite a bit more hours. How many more hours is that, first grade? Okay. Now let's talk about Neptune, what's special about Neptune. And of course, there are more things about Jupiter. I'm hoping you could probably find one more that's special to Jupiter, maybe even something that we didn't read about, but you remember. All right, let's talk about Neptune. Neptune is the most distant planet. And it is the smallest of the, what are the nicknames? The gas giants. That's right. And here's something that we remember. I'm hoping you remember. Why is it blue? Made mostly of methane gases. Yes. Okay, so then let's move forward now. So this is where we start talking about things that they have in common. They're both gas giants. Okay, that might be hard to see. So let me make it a little bigger. There we go. Okay, they're both gas giants. Let's see what else we can say. Oh, here's something interesting. All the gas giants are separated from the terrestrial planets by what part of space? The asteroid belt. They are beyond the asteroid belt. We read all about that. Okay, and then lastly, they both have large storms. And even the nicknames for the large storms are similar. We have, on Jupiter, we have the storm called the huge red spot. It's called the Great Red Spot. And then on Neptune, we have the Great Dark Spot. So you could even say their storms have nicknames about them. That's how big they are. So not just large storms. Why don't I put long-lasting ones? The one, do you remember how long the one on Neptune lasted? Yep, that one only lasted 5 years. But how about the one on Jupiter? 350 years. Ah, okay. All right, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed our study of Jupiter and Neptune. I'm going to go back to my regular view now. This slideshow is also available to you without the video, just in case you want to move a little slower. And I hope you've enjoyed. Talk to you soon.